This video is a bonus video that just has extra information that I find students often find interesting, but is not required for any part of the course, so you can skip it if you don't feel inclined. In this video, I'd like to talk about how you can set up your own virtual server that runs as a virtual machine on your current computer. This can be really handy for testing or for doing things when you don't have an actual server that you either want to pay for or set up running in your house. The server can just sort of exist virtually in its own little box in the memory on your computer, running and actually behaving just like a server. The nice thing about this is when you talk to it, it's exactly like it would be if you were talking to a real server out there. To do this, there's lots of different ways to do it, but I'm going to just show you my favorite technologies that help you make all of this work. The first one being VirtualBox. VirtualBox is a program that is available for free from Oracle, the same company that makes the Oracle database, that makes MySQL, and that now owns Java and helps keep Java up to date. VirtualBox is free on any system, and it is widely supported in terms of being able to just download computer virtual systems that are already set up on the web and just load right into it. I already have mine set up to do a whole bunch of things. I have it so that it will run Windows right on my Mac here, and I also have one that runs a mean type server, which we use in Advanced Web, and then right here I have a LAMP server. I'm going to show you how to create a pretty simple LAMP server today so that you guys can get used to that. The first thing that you want to do is actually go out and get the server itself. There's lots of places you can do this, but I find the best one is something called Turnkey Linux. Turnkey Linux offers a whole bunch of free pre-configured server stacks that you can download. They are all completely packaged, ready to go, and ready to load into all sorts of different virtual systems like VMware, or in our case, VirtualBox. There's a couple different ones that are really useful. The first one being, when you come to its main page right here, the LAMP stack. Not surprisingly, that is a LAMP server that runs Linux and provides Apache, MySQL, and PHP. The course website that we will eventually be talking to is in fact running this, more or less configured out of the box. Now there's also one available called a LAP server, and LAP is just a small variant on that instead of MySQL offers Postgres or PostgreSQL. It's more or less the same, and if you're doing this on your own, you might like to use that one instead, because people do have an affinity for Postgres as a slightly easier to use database and one that offers perhaps more features that they're interested in. However, I will definitely point you towards LAMP if you're doing things relative to this class, because it is slightly different how you work with them. The other one I'll point out that's available here is a Node server. This is Node.js. This is as close as you can get to an actual mean server that's available from Turnkey Linux. This will have everything that a mean server has except for the database. It does not have MongoDB installed or some other similar database that you would use. You'd have to install that yourself. But this is a good place to start if you're going to do that sort of work. So, what do we do to actually get this going? We would click on the LAMP stack, and you'll notice up here at the top there's a little description of it all. They talk about several different things you can do. One of the ways Turnkey Linux makes money is that they have these set up so that you can deploy them very easily to the cloud, specifically to Amazon's version of the cloud, which is called EC2. This is a compute service that you can purchase from Amazon that they will run for you. You can run a business off of it. Many of the businesses you might interact with on a daily basis might in fact be running out there. And so this would normally be a paid service that you would pay Turnkey Linux for. But most of what we're going to do with it, in fact all of what we're going to do with it, is free. What you would want to grab here, you'll notice there's several different options. There's the VM, there's ISO, which is a CD image if you wanted to burn it to a CD and install from that. And then there's a couple other ones that are useful. The one we want is the very first one. This is going to be an OVA file that is typically used with VMware, but VirtualBox supports it. So you would download that. Once you have the OVA file fully downloaded, you can come over into here, into VirtualBox, make sure, of course, you've installed the latest version of VirtualBox. You can just Google that, and you would say File, Import Appliance. You'd go through, you'd point it to the OVA that you'd downloaded. I typically recommend bumping up the base specs a little bit when you're going through that. You'll notice here I gave it a full gigabyte of memory. That might be a bit much for you. It depends on how much you have. Minimum 512 megabytes. I think that is the default, but bump it up a little bit. And then I gave it 2 processors. This kind of means that 2 of the cores on your computer are going to be used by that system. So it slows your own computer down a little bit. Be careful here, don't give it too much, but I think 2 is a good idea. Now, everything else that's in here is more or less the defaults, except for the networking. Let me show you a little bit how you can set up the networking to be as effective as possible. The networking out of the box works pretty well if you don't need to talk to the server, but of course we do. One thing, make sure also after you load it that you select the type as Linux and the version is actually Debian Linux. That's what it's based on. So you can set those if you'd like. Normally it comes unset. Go over to network. And what you're going to have here are different adapters that you can enable. The first one, adapter 1, is usually set to bridged. I recommend changing that to NAT. And that will work better for allowing the internet to get into the server. So NAT is what you would want in there. Adapter 2, on the other hand, is something you would need to enable. It's not enabled by default. So you can enable network adapter, select host only adapter, and then there should be one that's already configured here that you can set. It will probably be different on Windows, but you would just grab that one. So make sure those are both set up. Adapter 1 is set to NAT, and adapter 2 is set to host only adapter with the one that's available. Click OK. You can then start it up. When you first start it up, it'll be a little different. It'll ask you to configure some passwords for your computer. It'll try and download some updates. Definitely let it. I've run this before. So when I start it, it's going to come up. It'll come up in its own little window here. We'll let it boot up, and this is basically Linux booting. It's just like a Linux computer running in the background. And I'm looking at the monitor right here. After it finishes booting up, really all it's going to do is show me what its IP address is. Now, it's going to have 2 different IP addresses, not just the one that it's showing here. If you want to figure out what both of them are, you can click into the window and then click Advanced Menu and go to Networking. And this will show you the 2 different IP addresses. The order of these is random. Sometimes the 10.01 is at the top, sometimes it's not. You can never really tell which is going to be which, but usually the one you want is the one that is the 192.168 address. I'm just going to back out of this, back to the status. When you do click into this, it's going to capture your mouse, and to get it back you have to hit the control key on the left side, or if you're on a Mac you hit the command key on the right side. It's a little different, or excuse me, on the left side. So it's the control key on the right side. It'll tell you right down here which key you need to hit to get your mouse back. So don't panic when you lose your mouse. After you click in there, just hit that key down in the corner and it'll give you your mouse and keyboard back. Now, what can I do with this? Well, I can visit it. It's a server. Let's open a brand new web window here. Oh no, we're supposed to be on the web here. Come on, give me my web. All right, fine, we'll do this. And then unlarge screen this. There we go. Let me pull this up here. I'm going to visit the web address here. I go to 192.168.99.100 in my case. It's probably be different for yours. And now I'm talking to this server. I'm communicating with it. I can go into, these are sort of administration things you can go into. I already have some things on here that I've created before as part of the advanced web class. Let me see if I can go over to it. Let's see if this works. This does. Here is a big movie browser web page. We'll be doing stuff with this towards the end of the class. And this is actually being served by this server over here through its IP address. So this becomes a great way to play around with the servers and actually run them so that the things you're doing are exactly like they would be if you had an actual server out there. That's different from when you run and just load files on your own, which is most of what we'll be doing in the first part of this class. So feel free to play with this. This is a lot of a very powerful technology that's all free out there that can run on your system right now and allow you to really simulate the true client-server relationship.